Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm answering a frequently asked question about home inspection licensing. Do home inspectors need to be licensed in Minnesota? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. So yeah, here in Minnesota, we don't need to be licensed. You go over into Wisconsin, those cheeseheads need to be licensed. And it's not an insult. They like being called cheeseheads. But yeah, we do not have licensing here in Minnesota. I find it interesting because when you look at a map of the US and you think about traditional blue states, traditional red states, I'm not getting political here, but usually when I think of blue states, I think of a little bit more regulation and government oversight, places like California maybe. And California does not have licensing, just like we don't here in Minnesota. And then you think of more traditionally red states, like maybe Texas. I tend to think of like guns and freedom and Merca and flags and no government regulation or anti-government regulation. Well, Texas is a licensed state when it comes to home inspections. And as far as I know, they have the most stringent and strict oversight for home inspections out of any state in the US. They mandate exactly what home inspectors' reports need to look like in Texas. They are so over the top heavy with mandates on home inspections. I find it odd, but okay, that's a sidetrack. Bottom line is we do not have any licensing requirements here in Minnesota. When I talk to people about this who are asking about this profession, a lot of the time people will say, oh, that's really unfortunate. That's too bad. I mean, that must suck for you because, you know, we've been in business for a long time. We take this business very seriously. I do a lot of training to the people on my team. I do training for other home inspectors, trying to raise the bar for this profession. And a lot of people get the idea that, well, hey, if we had licensing, that would really help to make this profession a lot better. People would take it more seriously in Minnesota, and all the home inspectors would do a much better job, and we'd get rid of all the weekend warriors who just call themselves home inspectors and do one inspection a month or something and don't really know exactly what they're doing. And here's my 2 cents on that. Maybe you'd get rid of a few weekend warriors, people who do this very part-time, but I talk to home inspectors throughout the rest of the country, people who have gone through licensing in their own state. And what often happens is licensing comes to town in a state that never had it in the past, and lawmakers are very hesitant to make licensing too difficult. They don't want to create barriers to entry to a profession. They don't want to make it too hard for someone to be a home inspector. So they end up passing laws that make it pretty easy to become licensed. It's like, all right, you pass an exam and then you pay your fee, you make sure you're insured, you give proof that you had a certain number of continuing education hours, and bam, you're licensed. And a lot of the time people say, ooh, this is really simple. That's all I need to do to be licensed? Hey, I think I'm gonna do that. And you take a state like Minnesota where, you know, my best estimate, we probably have around 500 practicing home inspectors. You take a state like Minnesota and all of a sudden you're gonna have 1,500 licensed home inspectors. You're gonna get a ton of people who get licensed who have never done a single home inspection in their life. And now the public's perception is that we have an even playing field and all of these people should be equally qualified to do a home inspection because they're licensed. And that's a problem. Look at any other profession. Look at contractors, general contractors. Because a general contractor is licensed, does that mean they're going to do a good job for you? Do you ever hear about stories of general contractors not doing a great job for people even though they're licensed? Of course. This idea that licensing is going to actually level the playing field and get rid of the few clowns that are out there, it's a myth. It's not going to make anything better. Once licensing, if and when licensing does come to town in Minnesota, I don't think it's going to be a good thing. It's not going to make this profession any better. I read inspection reports from home inspectors all over the country, and I can't tell any difference in the quality of the inspections when you go from a licensed to an unlicensed state. Some of the worst home inspection reports I have ever read in my life, things that were just an absolute joke, they were atrocious reports, came from a licensed state. So licensing does not make home inspectors nor home inspection reports any better. It simply adds a layer of government regulation. So personally, I'm not a fan of it. I'm okay with home inspectors not being licensed in Minnesota. And bottom line is, if you're going to hire a home inspector, whether it's a licensed or an unlicensed state, it's important to do your research on the home inspector. Get referrals, check out reviews online, read a sample report from the home inspector's website. If they don't have a sample report showing you some of their previous work, I would call that a big red flag. All right, that's all I got for you today on licensing. That's hopefully a little bit of information along with my 2 cents, a little bit of a rant. If you're interested in more information about licensing, I recommend visiting the Examination Board of Professional Home Inspectors website. It's the group that administers the National Home Inspector exam. We've got a great infographic on that site showing all the licensed and unlicensed states. You can click on any of the states and you can drill down to get more information about exactly what the licensing requirements are for that state. Very, very useful, what is it, infographic? Something like that. Interactive map, there. Very useful interactive map. Okay, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections. Thanks for watching. Take care.